All right, so this is going to be a review of my Strandberg guitar. I did purchase this guitar direct from Strandberg. Nobody gave me anything. This is not promoted or paid, so it'll be an honest review. I did use the guitar. I have a new record out called Withdrawn from Consolidation. I used it on a couple tracks from that. So obviously I'm happy with it. It does have some issues, which we'll get into. But the first thing I'll say is I'm not going to do a ton about the specs. I'm sure there's other videos with the specs, and people can talk about that on their videos, or you can check out the website. If you're here, I'm sure you've seen the guitars. They're a little funky looking. This would be it. Got a weird neck that's been covered to death. You can look that up. Fan frets, no head. There's a lot going on here. It's a funky guitar. Why would I use one? Well, I've been playing guitar a long, long time, like 40 some odd years. I got some back issues, and this thing weighs about 5 pounds, maybe less than 5 pounds. I do not like playing sitting down. So if you're like me and you want to play standing up and you like light guitars, this is really your option. I don't really know that there's a lot of other guitars hovering around the 5 pound range, put it that way. That's super, super light for a guitar. That being said, the weight of the guitar does affect the sound of the guitar. This is not a big, beefy, Les Paul-y sounding guitar. It's a little on the thin side, and a little bit, I guess, for metal, it's not going to matter as much or whatever. Depending on the kind of music you play, this is maybe not your tone you're looking for. But I don't think it's a guitar that people are going to be buying for the sound to begin with. It's a unique guitar, and the specs are what they are. It's a very, I think even the owner said he's super into Alan Holdsworth. It's a very Alan Holdsworthy kind of guitar. And if you don't know who Alan Holdsworth is, go listen to him, because this would be an Alan guitar, So I'll start with the positive stuff. This vibrato system, when it's set up and working, is fantastic. It's very smooth. It's very subtle. You can get into the Jeff Beck-isms and all that kind of stuff. It's got to be set up perfect, though. This guitar is super, super finicky on setup. When it's set up, it plays great. It sounds okay, and the vibrato system is one of the better ones I ever played in my life. Only other one I can think of that was, in the ballpark was a Duesenberg. Those are super expensive, and that's more of like a Bigsby style tremolo than this. This is far more sensitive. This is more in line with like a Floyd Rose. The other thing I'll say that gives it an edge over a Floyd Rose, it's not as sensitive to pitch. When you're bending strings and stuff, it's not jacking up the bridge as bad as like a Floyd. So you can do some double stoppy and other things and keep it in tune-ish better than a Floyd. When you bend a string, it's not just going to completely cave. It does move, obviously, because it floats, but it's not nearly bad as a Floyd would move. Otherwise, on the good side, I didn't have a lot of trouble adjusting to the neck. Wasn't a huge deal for me. I did have some issues with the fan frets because, they're pretty narrow up here. If you're like me and you play by ear and you don't really stare at the guitar, you can. I did sort of miss a fret, or play the wrong note here and there when I was getting used to it. A lot better now after I'm a little more used to the guitar, but your mileage may vary depending. If you're one of those people that stare at the guitar, I don't think it matters. But if you're, looking over there and doing this, the spacing's definitely a little different. They're fanned and they're narrow. So it's not hard to miss a fret, or, you got to get used to it, basically. So really the goods are, the weight's fantastic. Vibrato system is also fantastic. They're very smooth playing, pretty easy playing guitars. I don't really have a lot of complaints on the general playability and other stuff of the guitar. We can get into some of the negatives now. So it's a super light guitar, right? It sounds okay. You got to work with it. And if you're good with that kind of stuff, like if you want a guitar you're going to pull out of the box and it sounds fantastic, this is probably not your guitar. I think it's tuned a little more toward metal, so it's a pretty hot bridge pickup. This one has 2 Strat pickups on it, which I'm not a Strat guy, so I don't think I've even used them. It's nice to have as an option if I ever need a Stratty kind of thing or something to cut through a mix, but I'm not really, I don't really care. I'm going to use the bridge. I look at this as more of like a lead guitar kind of thing, and that's really what I used it for on my record and other stuff. So, tone-wise, you got to work with it. That's all I'll say about it. It's got its own kind of character and its own kind of sound. Whether or not it's good is up to you. I'm perfectly happy with what I got out of it. It was a bit of work to get it to do what it did, but I was able to get there. And to me, the trade-off is the playability of it and being able to use the bar in subtle ways and that kind of stuff kind of makes up for the tone not being spectacular. Now, where I've really had issues with this guitar is that, it's ergonomic, et cetera, et cetera. It's a unique design. However, it's super sensitive to setup. I've had it sitting around sometimes and picked it up and it's like a different guitar. So when I got it, it was great out of the box. Used it for a period of time. Over time, it started buzzing on the G string. So I had to take it to my guy and get it set up. He set it up, got the G string in order. His main contention with the guitar is that there's not a lot of space. It's like a 0 fret up here, and there's really not a lot of room to work with. So it does not take much. If your neck shifts a little bit or the weather shifts your guitar, you're going to start fretting out, getting buzzing, et cetera, et cetera. And there's really no room to mess around up here from the tech side. So this guitar, I would say, they don't come with a case, but you really got to keep it in the gig bag or keep it or buy a case. The cases I think are like $250 or something. You really have to watch temperature changes and everything else. Because I got this guitar set up after the G string issue, and within a couple weeks, it was completely whacked out. It is winter here. I'm in New York. I left it out. I will admit I left it out on a stand for a couple days in the winter, but the guitar went bananas. Like the action was this far off the fretboard, the bridge kicked this way, and my other guitars were fine. So I don't think it was a completely harsh environment. I keep it around 72 in here or 71, but the guitar really didn't like sitting on the stand with temperature changes. So it's not the most stable thing in the world. I just had to get it set up again because it blew up while I was gone for the holidays. And, now it's kind of back where it should be. It is still fretting out a bit, which is annoying. So it sort of remains to be seen on this guitar how much of a nightmare it is to keep in good working order. I'm going to try to do a much better job of keeping it in the case and, watching temperature changes with it. I think if you do that, maybe it's going to be more stable. Again, if you're not good at working with guitars or you don't have a good tech, maybe be a little bit wary of these because I think, especially with the vibrato system and the setup, any little minor change in neck angle or this or that is gonna screw up the guitar pretty good. And that's been my experience with it. Again, I'm totally happy with it. I played it again on my record on 2 songs, I think Withdrawn from Consolidation and Waiting. These sort of lead guitars on those 2 songs are this guitar. And totally happy with it. It's very expressive. It's very cool with the vibrato bar. It just, you got to work with the sound of it. And you got to be super careful how you treat it. Don't look at it sideways. It might start buzzing. So again, if you're like me and you want your instruments ready to go when you reach for them, this is maybe a tougher option. You're going to have to be super careful how you treat it, how you store it, and probably do a lot of maintenance on it to keep it in good working order. When it is in working order, it's fantastic. So, like I said, my record's out on my channel. There's a tune I did with Steve Morse up there. I'll link them at the end of the video as well. And feel free to like, subscribe, etc., and I'll do more guitar content. All right, take care.